It's kind of strange when you think about it. We argue endlessly about boomers. We analyze millennials like a case study. We treat Gen Z like a cultural experiment. But there's one generation that almost never gets talked about. Not because they're small, but because they don't demand attention. Generation X. Born roughly between the mid-60s and early 80s, they're the coworkers who don't overshare, the parents who don't hover, the people who helped build the modern world and then quietly stepped out of the spotlight. And psychologically, they might be the most misread generation alive. Gen X grew up during a massive social shift, right when traditional structures were cracking, but nothing new had fully replaced them yet. And that timing changed how their minds work. Many of them were latchkey kids, not as an exception, but as a norm. Picture an afternoon in the late 70s or early 80s. School lets out. You walk home alone. The house is empty. No phones, no messages, no way to check in. You unlock the door, make something to eat, do your homework, and wait. Millions of children lived this way every day. Psychologically, that does something powerful. When you grow up knowing no one is watching, you learn quickly that your choices matter, not symbolically, immediately. If you mess up, you deal with it. If you solve a problem, you own that too. There was no emotional buffering, no long conversations about feelings. Consequences came fast and clean. And over time, the brain adopts to that environment. Gen X learned to anticipate outcomes instinctively. They think ahead not because they're anxious, but because they were trained to. At the same time, they watched the adult world quietly fall apart. They saw marriages dissolve in record numbers. They watched parents give decades to companies only to be laid off without warning. They were told the rules: work hard, stay loyal, play fair, and then watched those rules change mid-game. So they adjusted. This is where Gen X's reputation for skepticism comes from. Not bitterness, not negativity, something closer to guarded realism. They hope things work out, but they don't expect permanence. Emotionally, they learned to brace for impact. That mindset explains a lot, especially their relationship with visibility. Gen X grew up when privacy was default, mistakes were local, embarrassment faded, nothing followed you forever. So the modern idea of documenting your life for strangers doesn't feel liberating to them. It feels exposed. They're not bad with technology, they just don't trust attention. The less people know, the safer things feel. That's also why humor became a kind of armor. Irony, sarcasm, emotional distance, not to avoid feeling, but to stay upright when things collapse. This generation grew up during nuclear anxiety, economic instability, and constant mixed messages from authority. Adults warned them the world might end, then told them not to worry about it. So they learned to live with contradiction, to keep one foot emotionally back, just in case. And yet, this is the part people miss. Gen X didn't disengage, they adapted. Their work ethic wasn't built on motivation posters or passion speeches. It was built early through responsibility. Paper routes before sunrise, jobs that required real accountability, work where mistakes had immediate consequences and effort was visible. They don't romanticize work, they respect competence. After watching loyalty fail their parents, they stopped trusting systems, but doubled down on skill. If the structure collapses, at least they know they can stand on their own. That's why they're quietly reliable. They don't talk about grinding, they just handle things. There's an interesting paradox at the center of Gen X psychology. They are fiercely independent, almost to a fault, yet deeply dependable to others. They won't ask for help, but if you need them, they show up without noise, credit, or performance. Those habits were forged early, when friendships replaced absent supervision, when peers mattered more than institutions. Their relationship with authority reflects this too. Titles mean nothing. Competence means everything. Earn their respect and they're loyal. Fake it and they disengage instantly. They grew up watching authority figures fail publicly and repeatedly. Trust had to be earned, not assumed. Economically, they've been hit over and over. Early careers disrupted, midlife stability shaken, security repeatedly redefined. That's why many Gen Xers diversify their income, not out of ambition, but caution. Stability taught them not to believe in single points of failure. Emotionally, this generation often carries a quiet tension. They are excellent in crises, calm, decisive, practical. But that strength sometimes comes with isolation. Asking for support feels unnatural, even threatening. Self-reliance became survival, and survival habits don't turn off easily. Even how they learn reflects this wiring. Before instant answers, information required effort. You searched, you waited, you failed and tried again. That effort made knowledge stick. When something broke, you didn't replace it, you opened it up. You learned how things worked by touching them. That built confidence in solving real problems, not abstract ones. Now they're watching younger generations grow up under constant observation, constant assistance, constant documentation. And while they gave their kids what they never had, attention, presence, part of them wonders what's been lost, because to Gen X, visibility has always been vulnerability. The truth is, Generation X isn't better or worse than other generations. They're simply shaped by a narrow historical gap. After the old world began collapsing, before the new one stabilized. They're the bridge, and bridges don't ask for recognition. They just hold weight quietly, every day. And maybe that's the most Gen X trait of all, doing the work without needing to be seen. If this resonated, subscribe for more psychology that explains people without oversimplifying them.